Okay. Hi, I'm Alan Bass.
And I'm Ann Mickle of Mickle and Bass, and we're glad to be here joining you on Facebook Live this afternoon. And we are here at 95.3 WMFV. I'm sorry, WFMV. Is that right, Trey?
FMV.
Thank you. To share in the spirit of giving. And so this is the season, is it not?
It is. But I also want to mention that we're also being simulcast WTUA 106.1 FM in St. Stephen's. It's a little bit different format than we usually have when we do live casts on our Facebook page. But we're coming up on Thanksgiving, which is the one day of the year when everybody gives thanks.
That's right.
But we give thanks every day for all the blessings that we have, and we're here in the spirit of Thanksgiving, ready to answer some questions. That's
right. And speaking of the spirit of Thanksgiving, we know that, help me out, Alan, is it Matthew 6:30? No, it's Luke 6:38, which says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, shall men give unto your bosom." And so we're here in a spirit of giving to support this Thanksgiving effort for those who may not have as much as we do. And we want to make sure that they have a great Thanksgiving. And so as we answer your legal questions, we're also going to be taking a break from time to time to go live with Trey Taylor on the radio. And so we're really glad to be in the studio. And Alan, why don't you introduce everybody that's here, please?
Sure. This is Jamie Davidson with Mickle and Bass, and Tina Herbert, who is the newest addition to the Mickle and Bass team. Jamie, Tina, welcome. I don't think y'all have been on one of our live casts, have you?
We haven't.
Excited.
Great.
And since Tina is the newest member of our team, we're going to ask you to, Tina, why don't you tell us a little bit about your professional background?
I have had really been blessed here in Columbia since coming back in 2000, and so over the years I've practiced law in various areas. I've done some business and corporation work, litigation, sexual harassment. I've done defense work and plaintiff's work, and been really involved in the community with the Young Lawyers Division, being the president of Young Lawyers. I took a little break for a few years. I think most people know, went over to the city for a while to really help do some community development and economic development. Had a great time with that, and was really excited to see Big Red's face when we opened with prayer, because he knows my spirit.
Okay.
And a lot of folks are wondering, why in the world would you leave a great job at the city? And you should have seen the light bulb go off, because the type of firm that you all are, and a praying firm and a tithing firm, the light bulb, I saw it like clearly go off in his head. I said, that's why I came.
Now, who is Big Red now?
Big Red is Kevin Felder.
Oh, Kevin Felder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin Felder, that's my buddy.
All right, and you're so funny too, because she was introducing me, and she said his name is Big, last name Red. Okay, okay. Big Red. What's his real name? And we're just delighted, actually. We're just so happy to have Tina as an addition to our team. And we've had Jamie on board for several years, and Jamie's going to tell you a little bit about himself. Jamie, now you clerked with, when you got out of law school, you clerked with Judge
Ernest Kynard out of Camden, and he held court all over the state. At the time that I was clerking for Judge Kynard, he'd been a judge. He'd been on the bench longer than I'd even been alive. So that was really a blessing to be able to, to be able to learn from him and shadow him for that year. And then right after that, I joined the firm here, and have been working primarily out of the Columbia office, but again all over the state. Judge Kynard prepared me that you got to travel to work. So that was not foreign to me by any means. But I live in Lexington now. I'm married. My wife and I have a son who's 2 years old, and she's pregnant with our second child, a little girl, and she'll be here in March, and I'm very excited.
One and one on the way. Alan, you can tell us, tell our audience a little bit about Mickle and Bass.
Okay. Well, Mickle and Bass was formed in 2008. Ann and I met when she was on the Workers' Comp Commission. I appeared before her a few times. And then as she left the Workers' Comp Commission in Columbia, I was coming in. And I served for 6 years. And when I was ready to begin practicing law again, Ann was kind enough to try and facilitate meetings and with law firms that might be interested in hiring me. And it was a very interesting process. I met with lawyers, and it just didn't have the right feel. Sometimes I would meet people and the hair on the back of my neck would stand up, and I think I was being told by the Lord, this is not where you want to be. And so I met with one last lawyer who had told Ann before, as I understand it, that he was going to make me an offer that I couldn't refuse.
Quite some offer, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we had that meeting, and again, I just didn't have peace with what I was told, and so I turned that offer down. And so when I told Ann that I'd done that, she just sort of casually said, well, what do you think about, would you consider practicing with me? And we talked about it, and we prayed about it, and the peace that I was seeking, the other meetings that didn't come, I got immediately. And so I knew that this was where
That's right.
I needed to be. This is where the Lord wanted me to be. And so we've been practicing together since July of 2008, and the Lord has blessed us from the very beginning. And couldn't be happier about it. Couldn't be more blessed.
That's right. That's right. Tina, you were telling us something. Are we going to break, or what is it?
In about 1 minute, we're going to be going live.
Oh,
So
okay.
we want to make sure everyone who's watching us on Facebook Live is also listening on WFMV 95.3.
That would be good. And if you have any questions, please feel free to post them, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Happy to get to them. Thank you. Or if you want to call into the station, you're welcome to do that as well. And the call-in number is 803-939-9010, 803-939-9010, or 188-953-9830. I'm getting really good at this. Really. And this is on the fly, y'all, so this is good stuff, okay?
And I'm going to go ahead and post that phone number.
Thank you.
So that they can see it.
We're the station playing the best in gospel and inspirational music. That's Jordan Armstrong, So Much Love. He promised a new one from B.B. Winans, Anthony Evans, William Murphy III. Charles Jenkins kicked off the top of the hour on the station playing the best in gospel and inspirational music. 12:18, I'm Trey Taylor, and it is our day of sharing. We want you to help us help 250 families have a happy Thanksgiving. We are also sharing some great information. The law firm of Mickle and Bass are in the studio. You can actually log on to their Facebook page or call us here in the studio if you have a question to ask. Let's introduce these fine folk. Miss Ann Mickle, would you like to, and Alan Bass, would you guys like to introduce your staff?
Certainly. We have to my left my partner, Alan Bass. And Alan is, I'm sorry, in the mic?
Yeah.
Okay, we have, to my left, we have my partner, Alan Bass. And Alan is primarily in the Myrtle Beach office. And to my right, we have Jamie Davidson, who's also an attorney with Mickle and Bass and has been with us about 3 years. And to his right, we have the newest addition to Mickle and Bass. So happy to have her and welcoming her to the team. We've got Miss Tina Herbert. That's right. We've got Miss Tina Herbert. And so with regard to Mickle and Bass, our primary focus, although we do other things, is workers' comp. We have 4 former workers' comp commissioners in our firm, and we work for the injured worker, the injured man.
Okay.
And so this is the only firm in South Carolina that offers and has that constituency.
Wow. So, Ann, tell me some basic concerns that someone may have if they want to come to their law firm? Is it just if you get hurt on your job, or what would be the reason an employee would want you guys to represent them?
Well, 90% of our cases are surgical, and typically they're on-the-job injuries that result in neck surgery, low back surgery, shoulder replacements, hip replacement, knee replacements, brain injuries, paraplegia. They're typically serious injuries, and serious injuries are very impactful to folks' lives.
Yeah.
It impacts their ability, their physical ability, and then it impacts their financial
Right, because they
ability.
can't work.
That's right.
Yeah.
And if you can't work, you don't get a paycheck.
Absolutely.
And so generally speaking, protecting their rights is what we do. And we make sure that they get the benefits that they're entitled to receive by law through the workers' compensation system. We fight for our clients, and we make sure that they make as complete a recovery as is possible. We also pray for them.
All right.
Okay.
And you know, we have to say that before we even started the live broadcast, and said before we start, we've got to pray. And you know, I was so impressed by that. You know, just that. Now, I won't say that a lawyer is going to pray, but I won't say that.
Trey, you said it. Yeah, you said it. But I'm not ashamed, and we are not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
And it's good to know
Yeah.
that someone that is in the business world and that is going to represent you on something as serious, as personal as anything, workers' comp, also has a relationship with the Lord.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that is important when we enter into relationships, into business relationships,
Right.
that you are like-minded, that you
That's
are
right.
spirit-minded.
That's exactly right.
So that's a big thing.
Because the first thing that we do is we minister to the need that brought them in the door.
Right.
Okay? And then as the Lord allows, we minister to them spiritually.
Right.
So it is just a blessing. Talk about the spirit of giving and blessed to be a blessing. That's what this practice is about.
That's Ann Mickle with the Mickle and Bass Law Firm. She's here with Alan Bass, Jamie Davis, and Tina Herbert. And don't forget, you can check out their Facebook page if you have a question for Mickle and Bass. You can also call us here, 803-939-9010 or 1-888-953-9830. More of the best in gospel and inspirational music on the way, including a request for Travis Green next.
Thanks, Trey.
Thanks, Trey.
Alan, I think we've got a couple questions on Facebook Live, and you were giving a little bit more background about the firm. Do you still need this? I don't think you do for
No.
right now. Okay.
Nope, I'm good.
All right.
Yeah, we, as Ann said, we primarily focus on workers' compensation, people who get hurt at work. And obviously there are a lot of people who get hurt at work. They get hurt in car accidents. They're driving a company vehicle, so we also handle those situations. There may be work injuries that might also give rise to a medical negligence claim, a product liability claim. So we primarily focus on workers' comp, but we also handle automobile wrecks. Truck accidents are fairly common, and all other kinds of personal injuries. And one other thing that we like to think that our clients are family. And we'd like to think that if a client who, once they're a client, they're a member of our family, if they have any legal issue, that they call us, and if we can't help them, we'll find someone who can. We want to make sure that they get taken care of, that they're helped. And that's something that drives us. We strive for 100% satisfaction, and that's what we try and do.
And before we came on air, we took a bunch of questions from a bunch of folks. And Alan, I think you've written some of those questions down, and then we're getting some of those questions on the screen. But can you list one of those questions, and let's take a shot at it?
Sure. One of the most common questions that we're asked by people is, I got hurt at work, and they've been okay so far. Do I need a lawyer? That's a very common question. And I try and answer it, I pretty much answer it the same way I always do. You have the right to represent yourself. Most people who get hurt at work, they don't know a whole lot about workers' comp. They know that maybe they're supposed to get their medical bills paid, but that's pretty much it. Now, the insurance company who's handling the claim, they have people on staff, the adjuster, the lawyer. They know everything there is to know about workers' comp. And so when a person tries to represent himself or herself, there's kind of an uneven playing field. That person who's unrepresented literally places their fate in the hands of people who are being paid by the insurance company. And they're hoping that that adjuster is going to set aside the interests of the company that pays them and does what's right for the injured worker. Well, we found from experience that that just doesn't happen. And what we try and do at Mickle and Bass is level the playing field so that that injured worker has someone on his side or her side to take on the insurance company and to take on the adjuster. And I give the illustration a lot. I had a ceiling fan in one of my bedrooms that the light would go on, but I couldn't get the fan to go around. Well, I've got a step ladder, and believe it or not, I've got a little tool belt and with a few tools. And
Please don't. Please don't.
well, I am the least handy person you'll ever run across, but I do have those things. They just sort of look good in the garage.
Right.
But I could have climbed up there and tried to fiddle with that fan, and I may have fixed it by pure dumb luck. But what I did was I hired somebody who knew what they were doing. They fixed it. And so now I have a perfectly functioning ceiling fan. And so a person who's hurt on the job, they could probably fiddle around and try and represent themselves. And they have that right. But if they want it done correctly, then they need to come to Mickle and Bass.
And that's right. And we would hope you would come to Mickle and Bass. I think we have positioned ourselves well in the marketplace by the constitution of attorneys that we have with our firm. We have two of our attorneys who aren't here today because one, Derek Williams, is one of our partners, and he's not here because he is on the USC, College of Charleston Alumni Board, and their Andrea Roach is also with the firm, and she had to be in Charleston today for depositions, but they both send their regards, wish they were here. But having said that, the constitution of our firm is very important. We have a combination of former workers' compensation commissioners and former defense attorneys and former folks that have worked with judges, and the importance of that is the experience that brings to bear for our clients. We have 4 former workers' compensation commissioners that are with our firm. The workers' compensation commissioner, a commissioner is appointed by the governor with the advice and consent of the Senate and serves a 6-year term, and we have 4. And we all work for injured people, and people, we commonly call them claimants. And we also have former defense attorneys like Tina, who has the experience of working with a large defense firm. And so we bring that combination, that unique combination, because actually with regard to commissioners, we are the only firm in the state of South Carolina that has over 1 commissioner in it. And so we bring that wealth of experience to bear for the clients that we serve across the state. We have 4 offices. Our offices are strategically located throughout the state in Charleston, in Myrtle Beach, in Rock Hill, and in Columbia. So with our statewide practice, we're able to cast a wide net. Not only do we do cases in those areas, but we have about 40-something lawyers that also send us and co-counsel with us on their workers' comp cases, whether they send us 1 case a month or 10 to partner on so that we can serve the best interests of their clients. And so we're very blessed to be in those relationships. We consider it an honor and a privilege to work with the lawyers and actually work with their clients.
We just got a good question from our Facebook feed there.
Okay. It says, do you have to pay anything for a consultation? Jamie, you want to hit that out the park?
Absolutely. No. Next question.
I should have got that.
Listen, you said you didn't want questions. No, you don't. And that's one of the great things about our firm and this field in general, is that we work on a contingency fee basis. That means that if we're not able to get you something out of your case, then we don't get anything from you out of your case. I love talking to people, and it's unfortunate in the cases where we are not able to help somebody for some reason, but we always appreciate folks coming to us when they're in need of help, no matter the circumstances.
Yeah, that's one thing that people ask frequently over the telephone when they first call is this going to cost me anything? And I think it's important that people know that we're happy to talk with somebody and we won't charge them a nickel. They can call us, talk to us over the telephone, come in to see us, no obligation, not going to cost them anything. And if we accept their case, they'll never have to come out of pocket for any money. This is something that we handle from start to finish. Just to give you an example of how lawyers are paid in situations like this so that somebody will feel free to get the legal advice that they need. There are three types of benefits that a claimant is entitled to in a workers' comp claim. First, they're supposed to get their medical expenses paid. The insurance company is supposed to send them to doctors and pay that doctor to treat them. Now, as you can imagine, there are a lot of issues that arise about medical treatment, but they're supposed to do that. Second, if they're out of work, they're supposed to get a check each week that approximates about 2/3 of their average weekly wage from work. And again, a lot of issues about that, but anyway. Number three, if there's a permanent injury involved, and just about every case that we handle, there is a permanent injury involved, that claimant is entitled to a lump sum settlement or award at the end of the case. It is out of that settlement or award that your attorney is paid. It's a percentage of that. And so no person should go without a lawyer because he or she is concerned about the cost or they just don't have the money. That shouldn't be a concern. We'll be happy to talk with you free of charge, no obligation whatsoever.
And I want to get back to that, the explanation of a better understanding of our firm and the uniqueness of it and how we're positioned. We've talked about for a minute the value of having a former workers' comp commissioner. We were the we would be considered the judge in that arena, okay? And so a tremendous amount of experience comes with that we use on behalf of our clients. Now, you also have a defense attorney in that setting, and so I'm going to get Tina to explain a little bit about what the defense attorney's role is and how she brings that experience to bear now on behalf of injured workers.
It's very interesting on the defense side. I've gotten to see the big difference, but we really do represent the employer and the insurance company, and we're really there, just to be honest, to mitigate damages and keep the expenses on a file as low as possible. And that's probably sometimes the primary job that we have, secondary to making sure that the clients get healed or that they get the necessary treatment that they have. And of course, you have various attorneys that handle things different ways, but we're there to manage that file for the insurance adjuster. But at the end of the day, we are there to make sure that we minimize their costs. So that means we're not going to go too far out of our way with finding medical treatment. And we're going to do whatever it takes to get you back to work.
And that's the experience Tina used to have.
That's what I was going to say.
Yes.
It's
Right.
a bad.
Yeah.
Tina, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
When you were defending a case and the claimant on the other side didn't have a lawyer, did you tell that claimant what all his or her rights were and what they could do to maximize the value of their case and to get more medical treatment?
No, that really wasn't my job.
Right.
I mean, because honestly, I don't represent them. I represent the insurance company, and it would almost be a conflict. I would, of course, tell them they do have a right to an attorney. And that's about all that I would say.
And of course, if a defense attorney told an injured claimant that increases the risk or the exposure or the amount of money that an insurance carrier could possibly have to pay. And so that's not in the insurance company's best interest. And so one of the huge benefits that Tina is to Mickle and Bass is she brings to bear the experience that she garnered when she was on that side. She knows the ins and outs of the defense world, but now she's put on her superwoman shirt, and she uses all those talents to benefit injured workers and injured people across the state of South Carolina.
Did you have something to say?
No, I was just letting y'all know that we're about to go back on the air.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, you
One
did.
minute
Okay. Well,
Okay,
Alan,
cool.
you might want to get ready. You might want to take this one.
Yeah,
since
now
I-
when we get back on the air, I'd like to cover a couple of things you covered
Perfect.
on Facebook. The first thing, cost, because I'm sure cost is, and I loved your answer. No.
Right, that's good.
Yeah, and
4 offices strategically. What's the commissioner? You tell me.
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
say that again.
4 offices at some point. Want to tell them
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
we're operating
We-
at some point.
Okay, well, we can do that now. You
No,
want to do that
no.
now and then at 35? We can.
No.
I think we can get both of those things in
Okay.
this break.
What else were you thinking? Because you're the person.
Some of the questions I wanted to do, I saw someone said, I got hurt at work. When do I need, my employee's been okay. Do I need a lawyer? I think that was the first question. How long should I wait to file a claim? And I definitely want to get in what Tina said.
Oh, I can do it first.
You know, why shouldn't I? Okay, we got 5 seconds, guys.
Okay, you're gonna have to talk into the mic. Is what she was saying with me. You gotta get close.
From the
Okay.
Wild Gospel CD 1998, taking you back from your requests, the GMWA Women of Worship and Order, My Steps. Travis Green, you waited before that on the station, playing the best in gospel and inspirational music. It's our day of sharing, and we are sharing information with you from Mickle and Bass Law Firm, Ann Mickle, Alan Bass, Jamie Dickerson, and also Davidson, and Tina Herbert is also. Thank you.
I heard of Tina Turner.
Oh, no.
Tina Turner is not here. Tina Herbert is, though.
Tina Herbert in the house.
And for this particular situation, you need Tina Herbert and not Tina
That's
Turner.
right. That's exactly right.
All right, so you guys are on Facebook Live, so if you have a question for the attorneys at Mickle and Bass, please log on to their Facebook page, or you can call us here, 803-939-9010, 1-888-953-9830 now, or Alan, I don't know who has, I can't tell.
I think Alan's going to take this one.
You guys have several offices. I know you wanted to talk about that.
Sure. We have offices in Columbia, Rock Hill, Charleston, and Myrtle Beach. And so we handle cases throughout the state of South Carolina representing people who are injured at work or injured in a car or truck accident.
Okay, great. Now, what about cost? Because that's always going to be a concern for people.
Why don't you take that?
It costs nothing for someone to call and speak to us over the telephone or to make an appointment and come in to speak to us in person. You won't have to pay an hourly rate or anything like that. We'll be happy to speak with you to see if we could help you completely free of charge. And if we do take your case, we handle any case like this on a contingency fee basis. That means that any recovery that you get is what we get paid out of. If you get no recovery out of the case, you owe us nothing. You walk away. You don't even have to pay us back the money that we may spend on the case to order medical records, send you to get a second opinion. So there's literally nothing to lose by hiring a lawyer. And one other thing that we get asked a lot about is, well, I got hurt at work, and and things seem to be going okay. I seem to be getting everything that I need.
Right.
Do I need a lawyer? Well, 2 things about that. First, you don't know whether you're getting everything that you deserve or whether everything you need. And secondly, there are a lot of decisions that are made early on in a case, right after somebody's hurt at work, that may impact the outcome of the case. And so if you don't have a lawyer there to help you step by step through the process, things may happen at the beginning. Messes may be made that a lawyer later on cannot clean up. So I would think that everyone would benefit from legal counsel as soon as they can talk to one.
And the sooner the better. as
Yes,
you
ma'am.
said. Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, that's Alan Bass with Mickle and Bass. And Mickle is also in the studios along with Jamie Davidson and Tina
Tina
Wow, I want to keep saying that, Tina. Here's the thing. I know what your last name is. Tina Herbert. Tina Turner just kind of rolls off your mouth. And Tina Herbert is here. We are having our Adopt a Family effort, our day of sharing. And if you have more questions for the folks at Mickle and Bass, please log on to their Facebook page, or you're free to call us here in the studio, 803-939-9010, 1-888-953-9830, and you can have your question asked. If you don't want to go live, we can definitely have them answer your question off the air. We've got more music on the way. Your requests on More Music Middays with Trey.
Thank you, Trey.
Yeah.
Now we're back with our Facebook audience, and I think, Alan, you've got a couple questions that have been coming in.
I do. And this is also something that is of some concern, even people who do hire us. And that is whether or not someone will lose their job if they hire a lawyer or pursue a workers' comp claim. And that's an understandable concern. I've been doing this a long time. Last week would mark 37 years as a lawyer.
35.
Okay.
For me, you're older. Let's be clear. Yes.
And what?
We're going to be quiet.
Anyway, in those 37 years, it's been my experience, with very, very rare exceptions, that if somebody forgoes filing a workers' comp claim or tries to muddle through themselves because they want to keep their job, what generally happens is they mess up their claim and they lose their job anyway. If you're going to lose your job, you're going to lose your job. It's been my experience that if you are a good employee, they've spent money on training you. If you're doing a good job, obviously you are, or else they would have gotten rid of you already. It's been my experience they want you back to work because it would cost them more money to train somebody new. Also, and more importantly, it is against the law for an employer to fire a worker for filing a workers' compensation claim. You would have legal redress for that. And just to give you an idea of how seldom it happens where somebody gets fired for filing a workers' comp claim, I have handled one case in 37 years where I thought that there was a direct connection between filing a workers' comp claim and an employee getting fired. One time in 37 years.
Wow. And I think you were making a significant point earlier about the complexities of the law, and that basically if you need surgery, you're not going to do surgery on yourself. You're going to find the best surgeon you can find. Similarly, workers' comp can be a very complex area of law, and that's exactly why we have about 40 lawyers throughout the state of South Carolina. That number goes up and down, but at least 40-something lawyers that we have been honored that associate us and co-counsel with us on these workers' comp claims. That simply means that if they don't handle workers' comp cases on a daily basis, they call us and they partner with us on behalf of their clients to handle those cases. And we do that strategically around the state of South Carolina. We also have strategic partners in North Carolina and Georgia. And we handle those cases, whether it's one case, a lawyer may send one case a month or may send 10. But we're very honored to have those relationships and to provide those privileges. You know, I've always said that the best advertisement, because we're in having this conversation, it is a bit of advertising, although we're here for a day of sharing, okay? But I've always said that the best advertisement that any business can have is a satisfied client.
Yes.
And that is our goal, to have satisfied clients, because with our firm, you're a client typically once, but once you're a client, you're your family forever. And that's the approach. We're not looking for a drive-by. We are looking for relationships. And so that's the approach that we take to every case.
Well, and I just wanted to add to the significance of how familiar the team is with handling workers' comp claims and the experience, because what I can say from the defense side, we could tell a person who didn't do comp regularly at the drop of a dime.
That's right.
I mean, we knew it. We pretty much knew how this case was going to go.
If the attorney had no experience.
If they had no experience, because they would try and bring what they thought should happen and what they do with personal injury cases and so forth. And so it almost made us miserable sometimes,
right.
Because their expectations were different and they just didn't know. And so we find ourselves trying to guide them through.
And generally speaking, you're not going to hire a doctor. If you need surgery, you're going to do some research on that doctor. And if he's only done one of the kind of surgery that you're looking for, you might want to go to someone else who does thousands of these things.
Oh, right.
And,
but people will say they do workers' comp, and they do 1 or 2 cases a year. But I can tell you that from the other side, we could clearly tell a person who had done workers' comp and knew workers' comp versus someone just trying to dibble and dab.
Tina, when somebody appears in a case representing the claimant and you know that they know what they're doing, that they have experience, that they're good lawyers, what do you recommend that your client do when you represent an insurance company?
Well, one of the things we do is, I can say, number one, we look at it very closely to get a very realistic, from a realistic to higher end reserve. Okay.
What's a reserve?
What does that mean?
So reserve is we get the case, we look at it, and we try and assess for our client how much we think this case may cost them, and that would be a combination of medicals, as well as whatever permanent disability that the claimant has, and that can range. It can range based on what the doctors say. But when we know we have an experienced attorney, we know that it's going to be on the upper end because they've done it enough to know exactly what needs to be done to get the maximum recovery.
So in other words, you tell your client it's going to cost more money this time.
Oh, absolutely. And what's good is at some point they start knowing. The insurance folks, they're like, oh my goodness.
It's Mickle and Bass.
Yeah.
It's Mickle and Bass.
But it's a good thing for the claimant. It's a good thing for the clients.
Sure, because it's our job to maximize the recovery of our clients. That is our job. First, maximize their physical and medical recovery, and then maximize the recovery from a financial end, all the losses that typically occur when you have a work-related injury. Jamie, why don't you take this question? Some people that are tuning in may not really know what workers' comp is. What are the 3 main benefits that you typically get in an admitted workers' comp case that we usually try to enhance and control?
Sure. The first thing to me is always going to be the most important thing is medical treatment. If you are coming to us, if you are in the workers' comp system, you're hurt. You are injured. And if you are injured, you need medical treatment. The first benefit of the workers' comp system is to get you that medical treatment. If it's an admitted case, if we've been able to do our job successfully, you get that medical treatment, whether it's medications, physical therapy, surgery, pain management treatment, doctor's visits, on and on and on down the line. Those are the important things that are going to ideally get you back to work. That brings us to the second benefit, which would be temporary disability benefits. If you're not able to work because of your injuries, you still got bills coming in, you still got mouths to feed at home, you needed income. So those temporary disability benefits come in to pay you while you're not able to work as a result of your injuries, or if you are able to work at a lessened rate or fewer hours, it can come in to supplement that difference. And then the last benefit briefly is permanent disability benefits. You heard Tina mention that a few minutes ago. If there's a permanent impairment as a result of an injury, you may be entitled to money for that as well. And so whether it's a knee surgery that caused you to miss 12 weeks of work and now you can't bend your leg as much, or you can't walk as far, or you can't work as much as a result of it, there's a good chance you're going to have you're going to hit all 3 of those: medical treatment, the temporary disability benefits, and then the permanent disability benefits as well. And that's something that we take very seriously for all of our clients to make sure that their recovery is maximized in all 3 phases.
Yeah.
This is Prophetess Anderson. She came in off the streets of Columbia.
I was listening to the radio and I heard this, and I wanted to come and ask.
Yeah, she has a question.
Happy to entertain your question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My daughter and I was in an accident last year, September the 17th. We were on our way to the stoplight, turning light, and a lady came through and T-boned us. Okay, I have a lawyer. My lawyer's selling my case, but my daughter have had such a hard time because it's like been 3 lawyers. 2 of them sent her paper back, didn't tell her anything. This in the mail, and she was just devastated a couple of days ago when she thought she had a good lawyer who was going to represent her. But here again, her paper was in the mail, and she just broke down crying. I just don't. What do you do? What can she do? Because it's like no one want to take this case. The person that even the accident report says that the person that hit her was at fault. But they said also that they had a witness, but it was only her and I and the policeman there when the accident occurred. So there was no witness then. So what did we do?
You may want to repeat her question for our
Sure.
Facebook.
The question was, she and her daughter were in a wreck, and their car was T-boned. She hired a lawyer, and her case was settled, but her daughter, was she the driver of the car? She was the driver of the car. She's had difficulty in getting an attorney to represent her. Ma'am, can I ask you how badly your daughter was injured?
Well, she was injured bad. I think I got the worst impact of the accident because she's younger, and of course,
Yes, ma'am.
her back is she still have problem pain in her.
So
lower
her
back.
medical expenses are not that great?
No, it's not.
Okay, well, I don't know what the other lawyers said as to why they wouldn't represent her, but I always try and tell the truth. So I'm going to assume why they did that.
Mm-hmm.
There are 2 things that a lawyer has to look at when he or she is trying to figure out whether they want to accept a case. Okay, the first one is liability. Who's at fault? Can I prove that the other person, as opposed to my client, is at fault? Okay. There are some cases where liability or fault is clear. Like if you're sitting at a stoplight and you get rear-ended, that's not an issue. It's the other driver who was at fault.
Exactly.
Okay. In this case, it appears that even though the police officer on the accident report found your daughter was not at fault and the other driver was, he wasn't there. And so he can't, if he went to court at a trial, he couldn't say, in my opinion, the other driver was at fault. He couldn't say that. The only thing he could testify to was what the drivers told him, and that's it. Okay? So, in this case, liability is not clear. So, the next thing you have to look at is damages. All right? How badly is the person who's in front of you hurt? Okay? And if the person is hurt really, 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 really badly, okay, then a lawyer may be willing to take a chance and represent that person in a case where the liability is not quite as clear, because, lawyers are business people. And so lawyers have to spend money on cases. If it's a big wreck case, they may spend upwards of $5,000, $10,000 on a case out of their pocket. So if there are significant injuries, then a lawyer may be willing to risk
We're
that
the station
money.
playing the best in gospel and inspirational music. Donnie McClurkland, great and mighty. I'm Trey Taylor. It's our day of sharing, and we want you to help us help so many families in the metro have a happy Thanksgiving. We're in the studio live with the folks at Mickle and Bass and Mickle Allen Bass, who's already actually giving some advice to one of our listeners. Also, Jamie Davidson and Tina Herbert is in the studio, and we want to thank them so much for sharing all of this information. You can actually go to their Facebook page, Mickle and Bass, to ask a question or call 803-939-9010 or 1-888-953-9830. We talked a little bit about cost. We also talked about why people should even look for a lawyer, especially if maybe they're thinking, my employer is kind of working well with me, What do you say? Well, Tina has access
Tina,
to a
why don't
mic.
you
Because,
start?
Tina, I want to ask, because you used to work on the other side.
Right. Well, one of the things we talked about during the break is you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And so you may think that they're working well with you, but they may really not be. And the only way for you to really know is to come and talk to an attorney.
Yeah.
And so we suggest that you do that as early as possible. Because again, and I think Alan was talking about it earlier, we miss critical opportunities, or things can be done on the front end that really mess up the credibility of your case. And we met with a young gentleman yesterday, and he's waited close to the deadline, and there's so many things that could have been done that weren't done.
Right.
So as soon as possible, because you just don't know what you don't know.
Right, and I heard you say also that if you were in a car accident, so to speak, you would go to the correct doctor, and every lawyer doesn't do everything.
Oh, that's it. That's absolutely right. When you have a serious injury, that's when experience counts.
Yeah.
Okay? And the example that I gave a little earlier is that if the doctor tells you that you need surgery, you don't want to go to a doctor that's only done one surgery. You want to go to a doctor that's done 1,000 of these surgeries. And so it's almost like impressions. You don't get a second chance to make a good first impression. Well, you don't get a second chance with these physical injuries. You've got to make the best decisions you can make at that time, and that is when experience counts.
We're going to talk more with Ann Mickle, also Alan.
Before we took the break to answer some questions with our radio viewers, you were going through the 3 primary benefits that, if the case is admitted and not contested by the insurance company, the 3 primary benefits. You started with medical benefits, and then what are the 2 for our listeners who may not totally appreciate this area of law? What are the 2 other areas?
The 2 other areas we were discussing were temporary disability benefits and then permanent disability benefits. Temporary being the short term, right? So if you get hurt, there's a very strong chance that you're not going to be able to do the job you were doing when you got hurt. If that's the case, there's a really strong chance you're going to be without money. And like I said before, your bills keep coming in, you still got to eat, you still got to take care of your family in those cases. And so we work to make sure that our clients get whatever temporary disability benefits they're entitled to in those
and
cases.
at the correct amount.
That's right.
And when we say temporary benefits, temporary total benefits, the layman's term for that is a weekly check.
Right.
We make sure you get a weekly check while you're unable to work. And typically, we have to work with your doctors in order to meet the legal requirements, which enable you to get that benefit. And the third benefit, Jamie?
The third benefit would be permanent disability benefits. Once you've gotten your medical treatment, once you've been paid for your time out of work, there's a very good chance as we all get older, our bodies don't recover like they once did. You're going to have some permanent impairment, whether it's to your back or your neck, your knees, shoulder, whatever it may be. That body part may not, in layman's terms, again, it may not work as well as it did before your injury. And if you do have a permanent impairment as a result of your work accident, you're entitled to money.
That's exactly right. And when Jamie says permanent impairment, what in layman's terms that means a for the rest of your lifetime injury.
Right.
If you've had a surgery to your back, oftentimes based on the severity of the injury, the doctor will say use some guidelines to say you've got a 10% impairment or 20% impairment. But that's a for the rest of your lifetime injury for which compensation would be due. And so what we typically do is at the back end of the case, there's either a settlement or an award. It's a settlement if the parties resolve their differences outside of court in mediation or some other forum. It is an award if the commissioner has to determine, because the parties can't agree, it's an award of some amount of money that's given in that particular circumstance.
And that's what we do.
Great. Thank you.
That's exactly what we used to do as commissioners. We used to determine what award, the amount of the award that the injured worker would receive. And let's talk about the issue of managing the medical treatment, because the insurance company doesn't have a human interest or a dog in the fight in that arena. It's sort of it's a dollars and cents thing for them, whereas for us, we have a relationship with our clients, and it's a human interest. It's our job to make sure they get the best possible medical treatment that's available in the workers' compensation system. Alan?
Well, it is. South Carolina, I think, compared to surrounding states, has a decent workers' comp system. It's not fair in many respects, but it's a heck of a lot better than, say, North Carolina and Georgia. One of the features of the South Carolina workers' comp system that I don't like is that claimants, injured workers, don't get to pick their own doctor. The insurance company chooses a doctor for them. Now, the cynical person in me thinks, from my experience, that there's no accident when they send an injured worker to a particular doctor, because the results from that treatment, or the opinions that the doctor gives about whether you can go back to work, what kind of impairment rating you have, what permanent restrictions you have, always seem to fall in favor of the insurance company. I'm assuming that any doctor has a certain level of competence. I'm not saying that these doctors don't try and get these people better, but we tend not to have good experiences with them. So what do you do if your client is sent to one of those doctors? Well, I don't know what percentage, but in a large percentage of our cases, we arrange for our clients to get second opinions from doctors who are perhaps more unbiased, people who may be claimant friendly or patient advocates. And we get second opinions from those doctors. So let's say in a situation you've got a client with a back injury, and the insurance company doctor shakes them and bakes them and said, there's nothing wrong with you, go back to work. But your client says, look, I'm still hurting and I've got these problems going down my leg. So what we do is we arrange for that person, our client, to get a second opinion. And many times what happens in those circumstances is the doctor to whom we send them for a second opinion says, hey, look, this person needs surgery. They're not going to get any better unless they have surgery. So you've got the insurance company doctor saying there's nothing wrong with you, and you've got that unbiased doctor that says you need surgery. Well, we can send that report to the insurance company and say, okay, well, here's a doctor that says they can help this poor person. Will you authorize the surgery? Well, you know what they're going to say, no. So what you do then is you file for a hearing, and then you present this situation to a workers' comp commissioner and say, look, the whole point of the system is to get somebody back to work. This doctor thinks that he can help this person. We want you to do that. And so I would imagine that a good many of the hearings that are held in this state are over that very issue, is medical treatment. And there are just countless issues that arise in that particular area. And it's a constant battle, because, as Tina said, the insurance companies, they're going to try and cut the costs. And when you've got a claimant who's saying, well, look, I want you to give me a surgery that's going to cost you $150,000, well, they're not going to do that. You're going to have to make them do that, and that's our job.
That's exactly right. Now, if this information is beneficial to you, please hit that like button. And if you know someone that has a work-related injury, please hit the share button. But because we have a statewide practice with 4 offices, and we have clients that turn into friends, we also do other things as well, because this gives us the foundation to handle trucking accidents. It gives us, because the medical, you almost become doctors. Nursing home cases, auto accidents. We handle just about every injury there is, every serious injury there is. And we're happy to help you. We don't want to see you hurt, but if you know someone that could benefit from our services, please send them our way, and we're happy to help. On the issue of managing the medical, Alan, I think you've made a significant point about insurance companies. They're not personally interested in the case. They're more interested in managing the dollars and limiting the risk, which is why they often send nurse case managers to the doctor's appointments.
Spies.
Yeah. But our job is to make sure that the client gets the best possible medical treatment available, because oftentimes insurance companies enter into arrangements with doctors, and we laughingly in this industry or in this profession, we call some of the doctors ringers that really don't have a real interest in the patients, in our clients, because it's a dollars and cents. They're getting paid issued. It's a dollars and cents issue. They're getting paid by the insurance company, and they're not getting paid by the client. And when I was a workers' comp commissioner, one of my fellow commissioners used to say, "Whose bread I eat is whose song I sing." And if you're not paying the doctor, they're not really too interested in pleasing you. They're interested in pleasing the entity that's paying them. And so there are so many nuances in the workers' comp world and so many things that can affect your case. And that's why, and I keep beating this drum, that's why experience counts. Experience counts. And we would love for you to come in to see Mickle and Bass, but it's more important to us that you get to some lawyer that has experience in the area that you need help in. And so, Alan, I think you've got a couple of questions that you've identified that people are sending in.
Yes. How long will my case take to settle? Well, that depends. It's handling a workers' compensation claim is not unlike anything else. If you want it done right, it's going to take longer, okay? There are lawyers out there who wouldn't bother to send their client to get a second opinion. They'd accept the opinion of the insurance company's doctor, and then they'd just try and settle the case, get a little bit of money for them, a little bit of money for the injured worker, and just send them on their way. But if you want something done right, if you want the injured worker to get every benefit, both medical and monetary, that they're interested in, it's going to take more time. And it also depends on how badly you're injured. If you need back surgery, it's going to take you 6 months to rehab from that. So it really depends on how badly you're hurt and whether or not you want it done right. It's simple as that. Sometimes if there's a minor injury, that it's not going to take that long. But if you're injured badly, and that's what we primarily deal with, surgical cases, then it's going to take longer. But one thing that we can say, I think fairly so, that we're going to stick with you the whole way.
That's right. We're
not going to quit on you. We're not going to settle a case just so we can get paid quickly. That's not who we are, what we're about. If we think that it's going to take another surgery in order for you to get everything that you're entitled to, then that's what we're going to do. But every client is our boss. We do what our client tells us. What our obligation is to provide them with options and tell them what the legal consequences of each of those options are, and then allow our client to choose whatever option that he or she thinks is best for them. Now, I'm going to tell them what I think. I'm going to tell them this is what you should do, but they're the boss.
That's exactly right. And it is so very important in this area of practice that you have to be able to just frankly and just very candidly provide advice to your clients. One of the biggest things that in my 32 years of practicing law that it's very important to me from the very front end of a case is to manage expectations. Manage expectations. From the time that I interview a prospective client in deciding whether I'm going to take the case or not, we always listen to the facts. We get a good feel for who this person is, that God has graced to come through our doors. But we're always going to be honest with you, and sometimes honesty can be brutal, only because it may not be something that you want to hear. But let me tell you this: regardless of what type of lawyer you go to, you want that lawyer to be honest with you, because you're going to be making decisions based upon their honesty. Okay. And, you've got bills to pay, and you don't want to get to the end of the case and you find out, because the lawyer hadn't been honest with you, that you don't have a case, and yet your bill collectors are still at your door looking for their recovery on the bills that are owed. And so integrity, honesty, character, all of those things go into our representation, and it's so important that in that relationship with our clients that we manage their expectations by telling them up front what our experience tells us about the questions that they have about their cases.
One other question that we get a lot is, can I sue my employer? Now, the Workers' Comp Act was passed in like 1935 or something like that. It's about 80 years old, a little over 80 years old. Prior to that time, you could sue your employer if your employer was at fault in you getting hurt on the job. But since the Workers' Comp Act was passed, you cannot sue your employer. Even if your employer was at fault in you being hurt, you cannot sue your employer. The only remedy that you have is the workers' compensation claim, and that makes it all the more important that you get everything that you're entitled to in your workers' comp claim. Now, there are some cases, depending on the type of injury you have and what kind of accident it was, that you may be able to file a claim against a third party. Like, for instance, if you're driving a company truck and somebody rear-ends you at a stoplight, you can sue the driver of the other car. Not your employer, but the driver of the other car. If you're at work and you're injured because a machine malfunctioned due to a design defect, you have a claim against the manufacturer or perhaps even the distributor of that machine. So while you can't file a claim against your employer, you may have a claim against a third party, and that makes it even more important that you get some type of legal advice just to get somebody to put their eyes on it to see whether or not there is a potential third party claim.
And I want to mention this, and Tina touched on this just a little bit when she was talking about when she formerly represented insurance companies. In any workers' comp case, there are statutory deadlines that you have to meet. And if you don't meet those due dates or statutory deadlines, it can knock you out the park and your case can be denied simply because of that. One of those things is that, and Tina and I had this experience recently, but if you're injured on the job, you must report the injury. We encourage people to report it immediately, and most companies do. But technically, you have 90 days to give your employer notice of the injury. And if you fail to give notice within that 90 days, your claim can be denied. Similarly, you have a prescribed period of time in which to file a claim, file a workers' compensation claim. And if you don't file within that period of time, again, your claim can be denied. So, those are some of the risks of representing yourself, because in this particular area, and I had to tell a young man this not too long ago, in this particular area, ignorance of the law is no excuse. You don't get any slack from the commissioners, because if you don't know the law, it's your responsibility to go out and get a lawyer and get a consultation. The insurance company on the other side of you, they have an adjuster, they have a lawyer, they have a nurse case manager on their side.
Fine.
Yeah, they have a team, and so oftentimes if you don't have a representation, it's 3-on-1, and you don't even know it. And it's the hand that you don't see that can be the most dangerous in this particular process. And so that's just another reason, yet another reason, why you at a minimum need a consultation in this particular area of practice.
And I just wanted to add to the significance of that, of missing these deadlines. Because it doesn't offer you the opportunity to come in and explain why you didn't do it.
Right.
From a defense standpoint, I'm looking for, that's an easy thing for a defense attorney to identify, to cut off a claim. Very easy. And no commissioner which overturn it,
Right.
because it's statutory. So it's very important to make sure that you get the advice and know when to file. And don't think that, sometimes I just think we've met a few people and they think that they're smarter than us and smarter than the employers, and they may have very legitimate reasons for not having reported, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
And we sympathize with you. Even the commissioners will sympathize with you, but the law is the law, so it's very important, because just that notice can make a big difference. It makes all the difference in your case.
And I think that's significant, that what you just said. There's a defense attorney on the other side of these claims, and they are looking for reasons to knock your claim out of the park, to get your case denied, because they're not interested in your family. They're not interested in protecting your children. They're not interested in paying your light bill or making sure your mortgage is paid. They've got a job to do, and their job is to defend the claim and make sure that the insurance company pays as little as possible. That's what risk management is, that the insurance company pays as little as possible on the risk, which is the accident. And our job is to maximize the benefits that you're entitled to get when you have a legitimate workers' compensation claim. Again, you don't get a second chance to make these decisions, so you want to make sure you're making the best decisions. Yeah.
All right, 2 minutes. Is there anything in particular you want to go over? I've been listening to a couple of questions. I like when you lose your job, if you file a claim, can I sue my employer? How long would it take to settle my case, or any of those? Something that you want to talk about on the air?
I think on the air about being fired if you file a claim.
Okay.
That is,
You get that question.
we get that
Will
all
I
the
get fired
time.
if I file a
Okay,
claim?
great.
Yeah.
And I definitely want to talk about, too, that you do handle other injuries other than workers' comp. That's important, I think. All right, so we'll do, will I lose my job? Will I be fired first? We can do this one at 20 and then do other injuries at 35,
Yeah,
Yes,
sounds
ma'am.
good.
and then kind of do a wrap-up at 50.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
With your names again, your locations, contact information.
Excellent. Thank you. Trey.
And I also want to mention at the 50 that you do regular Facebook Lives, and
Yes.
people can join you for those. Now, do you usually do them on Thursday, or do you just arbitrarily?
What we do is we put together little vignettes, typically somewhere between 15 and 20 minutes,
Okay.
on various issues. One would be what are the 4 main benefits that you get? Okay, it's
Okay.
educational type
Oh, okay.
issues to
Cool.
push out the information so people will
But
have it.
are they weekly?
They are every 10 days or so.
Okay,
Sure.
cool.
Every
All right,
10 days.
30 seconds.
Gotcha. Okay.
And just make sure you get in the month.
Yeah.
Oh, Alan, you're gonna need this
Yes, ma'am.
fired if you get what happens. The closer the better. You might want to.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Mike's hot. Kurt Franklin from his latest Losing My Religion, wrapping up another 20 minutes of the best in gospel and inspirational music. For Sean Mitchell, turning around, Jermaine Dolly, Ruth LaAntra kicked off the top of the hour on More Music Middays with Trey. I'm Trey Taylor. It's our day of sharing, and we want you to help us bless some families in the area by helping them have a happy Thanksgiving. We're helping you also with the Mickle and Bass law firm. They're here live in the studio. Ann Mickle, Alan Bass, Jamie Davidson, Tina Herbert, and we're answering your legal questions. Call 803-939-9010 or 1-888-953-9830. They're actually also live on Facebook right now, so check out the Mickle and Bass law firm. You can actually go to our Facebook page, and we've got the link to their live stream. Now, you've been answering a lot of great questions, and one of the questions that have come up is about losing your job if you file a claim. And I guess some people are really concerned about that.
Sure. Well, thanks, Trey. It's that is a very common concern, and frankly, it's a reasonable concern.
Yeah.
I don't blame people for being concerned about that, but there is a law which makes it unlawful. That was not.
The law that makes it unlawful.
Nevertheless, it's illegal for an employer to fire a worker because he or she filed a workers' compensation claim. It's been my experience, though, that doesn't happen very often. For whatever reason, that it just doesn't happen very often. I've been a lawyer for 37 years, and I have handled one case in that period of time where I felt that my client was fired for filing a workers' compensation claim. Again, it is a legitimate concern. I mean, jobs are scarce out there. I understand. We call it job scared. People don't want to lose their jobs.
Right.
But in the years that I've been doing this, I've found that if somebody doesn't pursue a workers' comp claim or tries to handle it on their own to avoid being fired, what they end up doing is messing up their claim, and they get fired anyway. And it's been my experience that
So they lose twice.
yeah, they lose twice. But I think that employers want their employees back to work. If you're a good employee, they want you back to work. And obviously, if you're still working someplace, then your performance is satisfactory to them. It's more common that when somebody gets hurt at work, sometimes they can't go back to that job. They're hurt to the point where they can't. I think that's the more common situation where they have restrictions at the end of the case where they can't do that job. So I understand the concern, but I think the law that makes it illegal for them to do that, plus the fact that I don't know what the problem is, but just don't see it that often.
Right. That's Alan Bass of the Mickle and Bass Law Firm. Ann Mickle is also in the building along with attorneys Tina Herbert and Jamie Davidson. They'll be here until 2 o'clock this afternoon answering your questions. Call 803-939-9010, 1-888-953-9830. Hit them up on their Facebook page. They are streaming live right now, answering your questions. It's a day of sharing, and we want to hear from you. Please give us a call. Please drop by the studios, and please make a donation today. We're coming back with more of the best in gospel and inspirational music. Cheryl Moore, Fortune, and West Morgan next.
Thank you, Trey. Appreciate that. Wanted to follow up with the foundation of why we're here today.
Quick, gotta scoot out of here.
Okay.
Facebook world. Thank y'all.
Hi, Jamie.
Trey,
Hi,
thank
Jamie.
you so much.
Yeah.
So nice
Very
meeting
nice
you,
to
and
meet you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
See you at the office.
See you back there.
Get Tina situated. We also want to reach out to our Facebook audience because this truly is a day of sharing. I talked with one of my fellow church members this morning, Marvin. Shout out to Marvin, and he does our prison ministry. And one of the things that we were talking about is Thanksgiving dinners for the kids out at DJJ, who sometimes don't have a parent to go visit them, and oftentimes they don't have anybody that takes a real interest. Well, one of the things that, of course, with this day of sharing is a meal is provided. A Thanksgiving meal is provided to folks that may not have the resources to have a Thanksgiving meal. And so if you've been blessed with the resources to contribute to a Thanksgiving meal for someone else, on this day of sharing, which is why we're here today, we would ask that you call the station and make arrangements to share with someone who may not have as much as you do. And so the number for the station is 803-939-9010 or 1-888-953-9830. A day of sharing. And the website is Columbia-inspiration.com. Columbia-inspiration.com, reaching out to folks that may not have as much as you do. And so that's really foundationally why we are here, because we're blessed to be a blessing. And so we're contributing. Mickle and Bass is contributing. We're contributing, I think it's 100 dinners. I know that Word of God is Church and Ministries pastor or Bishop Eric Davis and his wonderful congregation. I know that they're contributing at least 100 dinners. And to the extent that that you can help, we reach out to you now and ask you to join us in that Thanksgiving effort, because truly it can then be a Thanksgiving for everybody, and that's a main reason why we're here. Now, Alan, we're the foundation of our practice is workers' comp, but we also do other things, because foundationally, with work-related injuries, you're doing doctor's depositions all the time, you're reading medical records all the time. So because that's what we do, it makes it easier and has made it easier to go into other areas of practice, because we had to broaden our practice because our clients have multiple needs. And so we handle nursing home negligence cases, we handle car wrecks, we handle tractor-trailer truck accidents, we handle certain medical malpractice cases. So there are other areas of law that we handle, and typically it involves a serious injury. And so if you have any questions in that regard, we're happy to answer those questions as well. I'm going to ask Tina to take this workers' comp question that I see on the screen, and it is, can I choose my own doctor?
I was about to speak into the mic.
Speaking to the mic.
You can. Well, to me, I'm leery of that question because I almost think it's one of those, it depends, because the initial answer is whatever doctor or treatment that the employer sends you to, the insurance company sends you to, then you need to go to that doctor. But then I think that is where it depends comes on, because what if that doctor isn't meeting your needs or isn't addressing all the concerns you have? That is where we as attorneys can look for an independent evaluation or send you to another doctor. But and going back to my defense days, I loved it when you didn't go to the doctor that we recommended, because again, that's another check off the box of, well, they must be feeling okay because they're not going to the doctor that we sent them to. So it is critical that you do follow what the treating doctor tells you to do and go to those doctor's appointments. And if we get to the point where they're not meeting your needs, or we think they need to go a different direction, then we look at other doctors.
And you made a significant point about treatment. Whether you have an automobile accident or a tractor-trailer truck accident or a workers' comp accident, if you don't get treatment, that is typically read as a sign, both by the insurance company and oftentimes by juries, that you're not hurt. If you don't go to the doctor, many folks think you're not hurt because there is so much medical attention that's available. You got free clinics, you've got so many other resources where you can get treatment. So the assumption, if you don't get some type of treatment in any type of accident, is you're not hurt. And if you're not hurt, of course, there's not much of a case there, because typically one of the elements of a case involving an injury is the injury.
Yeah, and it's also important when you get medical treatment. Like if you're in a car wreck and you're a little sore, but you don't want to go to the emergency room and sit there and wait, so you don't go that day. Well, that's one strike. Then you say, well, I still don't want to spend the money, so you wait 10 days. That's two strikes. Then you go to a doctor and they give you some pills or something like that and say, come back in 6 weeks if you're no better, and you're not happy with what he said, so you wait another couple of months before you go to a specialist. all of those strikes are what insurance companies use to take advantage of you. And like Ann said, if you don't go to the doctor, it's difficult to convince anybody that you're hurt. So we would definitely recommend that you go to the doctor, even if it's the emergency room, and go that day. Insist, if you get hurt at work, for instance, one of the things that used to complicate cases more than anything is somebody gets hurt at work and they don't want to make a big deal about it. So they either don't tell anybody right away, or they tell somebody, hey, listen, I hurt my back. Well, just let me know if it doesn't get any better. And so they try and work through it, which that's an admirable thing to do, but it just complicates the situation because let's say they wait, it happens on a Friday. They get hurt on a Friday, it's late in the afternoon, all they want to do is get their paycheck and go home and see how they do over the weekend. Well, come Monday, they come back and they can't hardly move, so they go to their boss and they say, look, I hurt my back on Friday, I need to file a workers' comp claim. Well, good luck. That's one of the most common situations where the insurance companies red flag and they're just not going to accept the claim. And one other thing I wanted to mention about the choice of doctors is when I was on the Workers' Comp Commission, a lot of times somebody who didn't have a lawyer would appear before me, and they weren't happy with the doctor that the insurance company sent them to because the doctor obviously favored the insurance company. I mean, you could see it, it was obvious. And then they'd say, I want to get a second opinion. And so the defense lawyer would say, we'll do that. So what they do is they'll just send you to another doctor just like the doctor that you left. So that's why I think it's important that if you go to a lawyer that you get somebody, you go to somebody who's willing to send you to a doctor, an unbiased doctor, somebody with no ties to the insurance company. And that's important. Because
and we advance those costs.
We do.
Those costs can run anywhere between $850 to $1,500, depending on the area of expertise of the doctor.
Right.
But we advance those costs for the second opinions. And number two, and more importantly, is we choose the best doctor out there with the best reputation. That's not the model that insurance companies use. They choose doctors based on expense and risk management, which is managing the expense.
Right.
So that's a very, very important point.
It's extremely important that you choose a lawyer who's willing to do that.
Yeah.
It's extremely important. It levels the playing field. It really does.
One of the reasons that cases often get denied by the insurance company is pre-existing conditions. Okay, and by that I mean that an employee gets injured, and then the insurance company gets them to sign a form saying that I can look at all your medical records. They look at the medical records and see that that employee had an accident, hurt that same back 3 years ago, and they use that to deny a claim, and that's often what chases people into our office. One, we never advise our clients to sign a blank medical authorization to allow an insurance company to go fishing. And then two, pre-existing conditions aren't necessarily the basis for denial of a case. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. If you have a pre-existing condition, let's say you've had a bad back in the past, then periodically you have to go to the doctor for it, or you may even had surgery in the past. And you're at work one day and you pick up a big box and you feel a stabbing pain in that back. And so you go to your supervisor, as you should, right away, and you tell them, say, I hurt my back picking up this box. And many, many times the supervisor will say, didn't you have a bad back before you started working here? Okay. And so sometimes it stops right there. That poor employee who needs treatment for his back doesn't want to make a big deal of it, just won't do anything. We'll just leave it as it is. An aggravation of a pre-existing condition is compensable. It is a valid claim. When we settle a case, we tell our clients, when you sign the papers, all you're doing is settling this claim. If you are at work and you later injure that same body part, that's the back, in the same level, That's a new claim, brand new claim, but it makes it all the more important that you notify your employer immediately, because if you wait, they're going to try and tie it to the problem that you've been having in the past. Okay? Don't think that because you have a pre-existing condition that defeats the case. We handle cases involving pre-existing conditions all the time. All the time.
That's right. That's right. I think that Trey was giving us the 1 minute mark or 30-second mark. So,
Well, I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
No, you
You
did.
have 1 minute. Yeah.
you have
Okay.
it. You had to do it. I think
Okay.
we're-
All right.
But no, again, that's what they use as another basis for denial. And if you don't know the law, you'll just go home and you will lose a tremendous benefit, and it will cost you, because these are injuries that can affect the rest of your life.
Right, and that's why it's important that you take advantage of having a law firm who won't charge you to speak to you about your case. Won't cost you a nickel. Come see us. Call us on the telephone. It won't hurt to do that, and that way, 5 years from now, when you're walking around dragging one of your legs behind you, you won't wonder, could I have done something if I'd called Mickle and Bass?
Dragging?
Dragging.
Dragging. Okay, gotcha.
Or dragging.
It's a dragging.
All right, so we have 30 seconds, and we'll talk about some of the other things that you work on. And what I'm going to do is mention that one of our listeners came in, and she had a question about an accident, and just to say, so you do other things other than working.
And I'll start off, and then you can fill in whatever I leave out.
I can
Sure.
stop.
Okay. Oh, God, that's Social Security.
That's Wes
disability.
Morgan, and God will get me through. Fighter from Cheryl Fortune before that on the station, playing the best in gospel and inspirational music. It's our day of sharing, and we want you to help us bless some families to have a happy Thanksgiving. You can call 803-939-9530 or log on to ColumbiaInspiration.com. Now, if you're in the St. Stephen's, Berkeley County area, you can go to WTUARadio.com or stop by the studios there in St. Stephen's at 4013 Burns Drive. The law offices of Mickle and Bass are in the studios, and Mickle, Alan Bass, and Tina Herbert are here, and they've been taking your questions, and we'll do that until 2 o'clock this afternoon on Facebook Live, or you can call us here in the studios, 803-939-9010 or 1-888-953-9830. Now, they've been primarily talking about workman's comp, but one of our listeners came in and said she had a question about an accident. So, and you guys do handle other types of cases other than workman's comp.
That's exactly right, Trey. As we talked about earlier, we are strategically located throughout the state of South Carolina. We have offices in Columbia and Myrtle Beach, and Alan's primarily in the Myrtle Beach office, in Charleston, and in Rock Hill, as a matter of fact, right across from Winthrop University. And so because we have been blessed by God to have such a large clientele, and our practice is, first a client, then a friend for life.
Right.
Our clients bring us back other needs because they trust us. And so when they come back to us with Social Security disability cases. They come back to us with car accidents, truck accidents, nursing home negligence cases. And we're just uniquely situated because the foundation of workers' comp is dealing with medicals all the time, medical records, and taking doctors' depositions all the time. And so oftentimes you feel like a doctor.
Yeah.
And all of these areas of practice deal with serious injuries. And I always say, because you see a lot of stuff on TV, but serious injuries call for serious lawyers.
Yeah.
We repeat that one more time. Serious injuries call for serious lawyers. And so we've had to expand our practice to be able to serve the needs of all of our clients, the clients that become friends and they bring their friends and their relatives and their cousins and their aunts and uncles to our firm and become a part of our family.
So in addition to workman's comp, if you have a serious injury, as Ann Mickle said, you need a serious lawyer, and the law firm of Mickle and Bass are definitely the ones you need to call. Ann Mickle, Alan Bass, Tina Herbert, Jamie Davidson is also represented here today. And we're going to come right back and talk to them more about how you can get the law offices of Mickle and Bass to fight for you. More of the best in gospel and inspirational music on the way on this day of sharing. Erica Campbell, Prisha Hilliard coming up next on More Music Middays with Trey. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Brian.
If we could just take maybe one or two more questions on Facebook, and then we'll shut Facebook down live and thank our audience for joining us, and we'll finish up the radiothon and the giving campaign here. So, Alan, you got a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up.
I do. Got the question, do I get compensated for my pain and suffering? No. Well, that's an interesting question.
In a what kind of case?
In a workers' comp claim.
Okay.
In a workers' comp claim. All right. Well, the answer is, these stools are uncomfortable.
I'm so
there we go.
sorry.
That's okay. Well, the answer is yes and no. If you get hurt in a car wreck, one of the elements of damages is pain and suffering. So in other words, if you've been injured, if it's 6 months between the time of the accident and the time of the trial, for instance, you can testify about how much pain you were in during that period of time, and the judge will tell the jury you can compensate that person for the pain and suffering that they've been in. In a workers' comp claim, your award is not based on pain and suffering unless the pain that you experience, let's say from a bad back, affects the use of your back or affects your ability to earn a living, either in whole or in part. So you can't say that, well, my pain is a 10 and I've been experiencing this pain for 6 months, so I want $10 a day for my pain and suffering. You can tell a workers' comp commissioner that, Commissioner, I have this problem with my back. Because of that, I have difficulty doing this activity, and I have difficulty performing my job in these respects. So you don't get a separate award for pain and suffering, but the pain that you experience as a result of your injury, if it affects your ability to function, especially at work, that does affect your award to some extent.
And this is a different question, and this is why experience counts. It is our job, and if I'm talking about workers' comp cases because you're talking about that subject right now, but it's our job to develop the evidence in your case to maximize the value of your case, to make sure, one, you get the appropriate, proper, beneficial medical treatment, and then number two, to maximize the value of the case financially in accordance with the provisions of the law. And oftentimes to do that, we have to develop the evidence through experts. And you do that whether you have a workers' comp case, or you have a personal injury case, or you have a wreck case, or you have a nursing home negligence case, or you have a medical malpractice case. So if we decide to take your case, we invest financially in your case by sending you to these experts to give us good opinions with regard to the severity of the injury, the permanency of the injury, and how to treat the injury, and how much it's going to cost over a lifetime to do that. And so there are so many components and complexities to these cases, whether it's workers' comp or nursing home negligence cases or medical malpractice cases, that you really need a lawyer who knows what they're doing to address those concerns. And we also handle Social Security disability cases, because oftentimes our clients who are surgical will end up, because of their injuries, especially if they have multiple back surgeries or surgeries on multiple body parts, and their age and a number of other factors, restrictions, they end up having to file for Social Security disability claims, and we handle those as well.
Yeah, and I think it's important for our audience to know that we talked about getting second opinions from doctors for our clients. It's also very common in appropriate cases that we provide a vocational assessment for our clients, because as we mentioned about the award of pain and suffering, generally it's sort of a chain that you have to work on as an attorney. You get client has pain, and as a result of that pain, the doctor who treats that person, not the insurance company's doctor, I promise, will provide restrictions for that person. Because you're in this pain, I don't think you should do this, 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 and this. Then the next link in the chain is we provide that client a vocational assessment. And what that vocational expert does is takes those restrictions that are given to the client based on the pain and determines, in addition with education, training, and experience and things of that nature, whether or not our client can realistically expect to find a job or keep a job in South Carolina's job market. And we do that quite often.
Okay. We're about to wrap up right now, and if any of this information has been of benefit to you, we'd ask you to like us on Facebook. We'd ask you to share this video so that other people who may have these issues will be aware that that we're available for a free consultation. But I want to end by saying to you, information is power. Information is power. So if you or a loved one is in an accident and has a serious injury, you need to get the information and good information to make good choices, and you need to hire a lawyer. But let's end on this: sharing the spirit of giving. That's why we're here. Thanksgiving's coming up, and we hope and pray that all of you have a wonderful and a wonder-filled Thanksgiving, because we all have so much to be grateful for.
Amen.
Just the fact that we're all standing here at the station with Trey, and that we're all healthy and clothed in our right minds, that's enough for a good amen right there.
Amen.
And so, as we approach this Thanksgiving holiday, let us show our gratitude to the Lord for all that He has done for us and continues to do for us, because we are truly grateful. And to always remember that we are blessed to be a blessing. We're not just blessed to keep it to ourselves, but the Lord blesses us to be a blessing. And, there are call-in numbers that are available at the station, where if you want to be a blessing to someone else who may not have the resources for a Thanksgiving dinner. Alan, can you wrap up with that?
Sure. Please give a call to 803-939-9010 or 1-888-953-9830, or you can visit the website columbiainspiration.com.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, from Alan, from me, from Tina Herbert, Jamie Davidson just left, from Derek Williams, and Andrea Roach, we thank you for joining us, and we're wishing you a happy holiday.
God bless you.
Thank you.
All right. Great job.
Good.
Thanks, Trey.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Trey.
Absolutely. You got about 3 minutes.